deeply.
In about 4 seconds, a teacher will begin to speak.
I think very deep.
Alright guys, what we have right there is betta hendra in a very unique but natural style bubble nest with a group of leaves that literally hit the surface, and they've been suspended either by a piece of driftwood. And this hendra pair has been spawning and dropping eggs. Pretty damn cool. I've been feeding these guys rather heavily on a couple different insect type foods that I've been using. I'll show the new food after this video. I picked it up at the Aquatic Experience in Secaucus, New Jersey this weekend. All the bettas in this tank, including the betta channoides and of course the hendra, have really enjoyed the food, and seems to have spurred some new interest in spawning, some added protein level in the female and male's diet have basically spurred some spawning. This is a really cool setup for keeping. That's a pair right there. That's a male. That's a male with his back, with his head facing the back glass. The female's facing us. The female has the dorsal stripe right there. There are quite a few pairs in this tank. This is a 20-gallon long. This tank is my favorite style. Basically favorite style of tank to display. Most of the wild bettas I maintain, I usually like to go half to 3/4 high water level. Maintain a warm, humid layer of air trapped, of course, between the glass lid and the water column. And as you know, if you're maintaining wild bettas, a glass tight fitted lid is an absolute must. If you don't have one, you're going to learn the hard way. These fish will find gaps and will find ways to get out. Now in this particular tank, there's a group of betta channoides and a group of hendra, all of which Nathan and I have spawned ourselves. These are all our own fish. So let's see if we can find some of the channoides. There's a female channoides right there. Sorry about the glare. You got a little male. I used magnolia leaves. You also have a pair of hendra that are maintained, or actually have taken over this pot. And there should be a little male somewhere. There he goes, right there. He's looking to attract the female to come in to bring to that pot so he can lure her into his bubble nest. And he can spawn and put those eggs up inside that nest. Hendra are amazing. Hendra are very good bettas in the Coxina complex for first timers. I've sold quite a few of them. Most of the time they're pretty easy to have success with. As far as filtration, I'm using a sponge filter. Turned it back. Flows pretty much negligent. Lighting, LED bulb. Daylight, if I would change anything, I would change it to an incandescent bulb just to toss a little bit of heat to warm up that air trapped between the glass and the water a little bit more. That warm column of air, it's important for bettas not to breathe air temperatures that are drastically different than the water temperature they're in. But overall, it also makes a really cool peat swamp type look that I usually try to maintain in these type of tanks. And as you can tell, this setup is devoid of any plants. The majority of the areas that these fish come from, for the most part, are somewhat devoid of plants. Some of them have plants, some of them don't. This particular setup, I'm maintaining no plants whatsoever, and I kind of like it that way. So let's get a little bit more up close. You can see the eggs dropping down, and the male hendra is picking them up. He'll grab the eggs from the female, and he's going to go up and he's going to place them in that bubble nest that he's created. That's a natural bubble nest. That's unlike the clay pot, which is an awesome way to maintain a nest. This is what you would typically see in the wild, a bubble nest that's been created with either leaf, wood, maybe a riparium type plant that is protruding into the water, and then the fish will lay their eggs. Now this is a pretty big clutch she's dropping. Look, look, look. They've been dropping eggs for a good 2 to 3 minutes since I've been filming. Some of them are getting picked off by the channoides. So he's gonna be spending a lot of time defending that nest, but he will, and the female will eventually back off, and then the male will spend the rest of the time protecting the nest and trying to pretty much guard the fry until after about a few days or so, and then he'll let them be, and then the fry will be free swimmers. This tank is not the ideal setup for spawning these particular bettas. Maybe the betta channoides this tank is okay with as far as spawning because they're mouth brooders, but for the most part, that's not why I set this tank up. I wanted to try to show the two different complexes in display together and see if I could have success in maintaining them, and I was able to do that. For the most part, if I want to spawn the betta channoides, I'm going to pull 2 males to 1 female. Sometimes maybe, 2 males and 1 female to a 5.5 gallon tank is a pretty good ratio. And this way you'll get both males to hold. You're not going to exhaust one male, and then you can pretty much let them be in a 5.5 gallon tank while they're holding, and they can spit the fry, and you can have a nice batch of channoides fry to grow out, of which channoides are pretty easy. Here's another one right there. Channoides are pretty easy to get to. Their fry are pretty easy to feed. They're not as picky as a lot of wild betta fry. Another betta hendra. They're pretty easy. I've been able to get them to take frozen baby brine shrimp instead of not even live baby brine shrimp. They'll take some tiny micro worms. They'll also take some tiny grindle worms, baby grindle worms, of which if you put a small glass pane down, sometimes you're able to pull out some of the smaller juvenile grindles, and then keep a snail in there or so. And one ram swan would be enough for a 5.5 gallon tank, and he'll eat some of the larger grindles, and then the smaller grindles get snatched up by the channoides. So this is my sort of peat swamp setup for betta hendra and betta channoides. This is FunctionBuilt-Aquatics in conjunction with Wild Betta Fish USA. Visit our website, wildbettafishusa@gmail.com. Any questions? We do have hendra available for sale. Check our website, hit us up, and we can work something out. Thanks, guys. The food I was talking about earlier, I picked this up at the Aquatic Experience. The company is Elos, and of course it's a European company. This is adult brine shrimp, Artemia. Now, everybody knows that adult brine shrimp have next to, if not very little, nutritional value. The nutrition basically comes from the juveniles, the newly hatched baby brine shrimp. But the secret to this company's success with adult brine shrimp is gut loading the brine shrimp before it's preserved. And so far, I haven't had one wild betta, and I mean not a single one, that hasn't gone bananas over it, including the channoides, which have been eating white worms, grindle worms, for months, and typically like to see something moving. They love black worms, and since they were pretty much conditioned on live, I thought I'd have a problem to get them to eat something that's not mobile, and they were not affected in any way whatsoever. As you can tell, the hendra rewarded me right away with spawning. So for the most part, I'm going to give this food a chance. They have 2 other types. They have one for black worms. One for bloodworms, and then another one I think is cyclops. So I'm going to try to get a link for the website for this company. You can buy the food direct from them. This can at the show was about $10. It's not cheap, but it was worth a try. Thanks, guys.
So you're a philosopher?
Yes. 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 Yes.